many times you have to rewrite the narrative. So if you have a negative narrative going on in your head, we've got to change that narrative to make sure it's a positive narrative. Does that make sense? Good morning, and welcome back to another episode of the Todd Durkin Impact Show. And I'm super fired up today for lots of reasons. Number one, we're 5 days away from the big book launch. Get Your Mind Right's coming out this coming Tuesday, so get ready to rock and roll. But you know what, before I even go into today's episode, it's purely Q&A based on all of the amazing questions. And I'm not going to get through all of them because we have a stack of incredible questions on all aspects of business, life, leadership, the process of writing the book. And I'm going to get through them in a second. But first, I want to breathe some life into you. Some life. Yeah, because I don't know about you, but there's been this major shift in the last week or so. I don't know if you felt it or not, but as the world starts to open back up, a reminder about the necessity to keep fighting, to keep believing, to keep going, and to keep manifesting all of the things that you are working on. Some of you have had a difficult last few months, right? There's been some difficult moments, some difficult days, heck, even some difficult weeks. This entire period has been absolutely crazy. But there have been many of you who've also shared that this time has provided you the opportunity to potentially pivot and to do some amazing things. And the other day on my Good News Network, I've been doing a 12 noon every single day. I talked to you about a few words that are going to get us through this together, And my friends over at Under Armour started this movement, Through This Together, which I really love, by the way, Through This Together, because it's been people like you who are listening in to the podcast episode and sending me messages and lighting up the social media universe. But I shared 10 words. I'll check them out. Hope, belief, conviction, grit, toughness, vision, discipline, determination, positivity, and faith. These 10 words, along with, I'll add, and then some, gratitude. Gratitude for all who we're hanging out with, who we're around, and this time to reflect as the universe, I'll say, just resets or recalibrates to a new pace as we open back up. Let us take some of these lessons that we've learned and transition them moving forward as our businesses and our lives get back to, I'll say, air quote, normal, whatever normal is. Let's really reset even your priorities about what is it that we're going to do to make sure that we can continue to be the best version of ourselves. Makes sense, right? Hopefully that fires you up. But I wanted to make sure that we talk about life and these things as we kind of hard charge into a new month of June coming up here. And speaking of hard chargers and fire-breathing dragons, shout out today to my man Joseph Surfati up in Toronto, Canada. Check out this review he just left on this, man. I so appreciate all of your reviews on Amazon, on Goodreads, for the book coming out. God, 5 days, and it's coming out. Todd Durkin is the coach who will ignite the fire in your soul to get after it. Who will believe in your dream even when you're lost in a cloud of self-doubt? You will feel his passion and care emanate from every word of Get Your Mind Right. It will be like he's right there in your corner, coaching you on your journey to be the best version of yourself. I'm more than certain you will walk away with many nuggets of wisdom from the key lessons he shares in this book. Wisdom that will inspire you to make at least one little change in your life, to be 1% better every day. Get Your Mind Right will make you laugh, smile, and even shed some tears. But ultimately, it will impact you in ways you'd never believe, as it has with me, and help you listen to the whispers of your heart. Time to put on the gray hoodie and be a fire-breathing dragon. Woo-hoo! Man, it's reviews like that fire me up. And matter of fact, if you have not got your book yet, if you haven't pre-ordered your book yet, now is a great time to do that. Don't forget, you know the link. Just got to go there and get it. ToddDurkin.com/getyourmindright. There's some great bonuses available if you do it before June 2nd, which is this coming Tuesday. There's bundles available, 3 different bundle kits from 10 to 25 books, 26 to 99 books, and 100 plus books on that. So check it all out. ToddDurkin.com/getyourmindright. Now, today, we're going to be doing some Q&A, and I want to thank you for all of the questions that have come in. There's been an array of questions. I'm not going to get through all of them today, but I'm going to do my best to get through as many as possible and deliver some great value. Matter of fact, this kind of kicks off. We're going to get back to our Thursday episodes of being a lot of Q&A. So please, if you have Q&As that you'd like me to answer, please go to toddurkin.com. And you can look there in the podcast section. There's an area where you could drop your questions. So please do that. You could also DM me on Instagram, and I'll look at your questions. But here's a few of the questions that have come up, and I would love your feedback on them as well. Check this out. And I'm in no particular order. I've got a slew of questions. I'm just going to choose a few different ones here for today's episode. Aaron Glynn asks, what was the catalyst to you starting a book dealing with mind over matter? Good question, Aaron. Well, really, for me, mind over matter has always been something that I've prided myself on, the strength of mindset. Not saying that it's always been easy, because it hasn't been. I think one of the reasons why I wrote the book was because I realized the importance of mind chatter and how negative voices in your head, many times you have to rewrite the narrative. So if you have a negative narrative going on in your head, we've got to change that narrative to make sure it's a positive narrative. Does that make sense? So for me, it was important to have a book on mindset. As a matter of fact, I believe that this will probably be a first of several different books on mindset as well. Esther McIntyre, My Health Studio up in Westlake Village, asks the question similar, but this is interesting. Was the final product the book you originally envisioned writing, or were you led down a different path as the book progressed? That's a great question. So the final product of the book is not what I originally envisioned. When I originally envisioned it, it was going to be primarily for athletes who struggled with mindset. And if you don't work with athletes or you're not a high-level athlete, believe it or not, one of the keys to high performance in the athletic world is getting your mind right. But you'd be surprised how many athletes don't have their minds right on a regular basis. It's often filled with doubt or fear, or people wrap up their whole identity in their sport. That's not necessarily a good thing, because as human beings, as soulful beings, I believe that we've got to have our mind, body, and soul in congruence. So Esther, when I set out initially, way back to before I started writing the book, it was like, I'm going to have a book full of motivational quotes, and one could refer back to that. And it was going to be similar to my WOW book, short chapters and real nuggets. But when I started writing it, I guess to answer your question, I was led down a different path to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And before I knew it, when that outline was complete, it was a little bit different than I originally intended and envisioned, because well, when you read the book, you'll find out there's a lot of soul in it. And I actually got into a lot of my systems and best practices on how to get your mind right. And I think that's important versus just the quotes and the things that will help you get through the day and win the day. Although that is in there, I believe what's most important is, how do we rewire the brain? How do we, when we look at even things like neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, how do we rewire the thought process? And that's what I'm fascinated with these days, is how do we get our mind right? How do we choose to change the habits that we have to have the discipline to do, so that if we do them, we will rewire them? So to answer that question, I believe the final product of what you're going to read and get your mind right is a different version, a much deeper and hopefully better version of what I initially intended. And hey, maybe I'll go back in another edition, I'll go back to what my initial purpose was. But it's amazing, the process of writing, how when you start to get everything on paper, you go deeper and deeper and deeper. And after many times, you finally come up with your final product. Alex Doherty Patterson, Baker, Louisiana here. You've mentioned multiple times to get rid of the stinking thinking and to surround yourself with positive people. What do you do when it's people close to you that are bringing you down? I have personally had a close friend made a rude comment on my progress about my weight loss, 18 pounds since January. Wow. That's awesome, Alex. Congratulations. And my parents putting down my Dave Ramsey process. Have you ever felt even close family or friends wanted you to fail? You ever let the 1 to 2 negative comments overpower your 100 positive comments? Alex, the answer to your question is yes, and yes, and yes. All of the above is absolutely correct. And matter of fact, in the book, I talk about how with the 80,000 or so thoughts that we have in a day, 60,000 of those thoughts, up to 60,000 of those thoughts may be negative. Who you surround yourself with absolutely impacts the way you think. What you listen to impacts the way you think. So that is important. What is if it, let me start with the family part. If it's in your family, what I always say is you don't want to ostracize your family necessarily, but you can choose when you're going to invest into talking to that member. You don't always have to answer every phone call that your family members may give you. You may say, okay, I'm going to talk to my brother or my sister or whoever, your aunt, uncle, whoever it is, at this certain time, or don't do it in prime time. I call it prime time. Like if you're working out between 6 and 8 in the morning or whenever that may be, is that you've got to protect prime time. You must protect prime time so that it don't get in the dome. Because if it gets in your dome and you get frustrated, you get negative, that becomes contagious. And that contagiasm rubs off on your loved ones, your sons or your daughters, your spouse. So we want positive contagiasm, contagious enthusiasm, right? So you've got to pick and choose with your family. With the friends part, now this is tough. What if you have friends who actually don't want you to move ahead? That happens. And guys, in my life, I've been blessed to have some great people in my life, but I also have had to reduce the amount of time spent with some people. Maybe they were partying too much when I was younger and I didn't want to live that lifestyle. Perhaps they were constantly doing things that weren't congruent with my core values. On that. So the answer is yes. There have been times in my own life where I've chosen not necessarily to just get them out of my life completely, although that could be the case, but maybe to spend less time with them as well. And ultimately, we choose who we're spending time with. Remember this, if it's going to be, it's up to me. If it's going to be, it's up to me. Can you please recite that right now as you're walking around the neighborhood or wherever you are? And matter of fact, if you're crossing somebody right now and they're saying the same thing, give them a high five. Just go give them a high five, would you? If it's going to be, it's up to me. Well, if it's up to me, who am I listening to? What am I listening to? What are those words? Because no doubt about it, like including the Dave Ramsey process, which Dave Ramsey obviously cut up the credit cards, reduce expenses, drive revenues, these things. Dave Ramsey has some amazing processes that are not simple to do. And it's against the tide. It's against the norm on that. But extreme discipline to do what you need to do to get here, financial savviness, right? On that. So I believe that as you formulate who it is that you want to be, you've got to make sure that you guard your dome really, really close on that. And the last yes about the negative comments, overpower your 100 positive comments, I talk about this all the time. The answer is yes. I just don't let it fester in my brain, in my head, in my dome too long, because it's like a broken record sometimes. And whether it's about your weight, you're too heavy or you're too light, you're not fast enough, you're not tall enough, all the voices. A coach can have really debilitating impact effects on you. Coaches, make sure you are careful what you say, because your words carry a lot of weight, way more weight than you can imagine. So make sure you're uplifting people. And if you got negative things to say, remember the old sandwich technique: positive, give feedback, and then an attaboy and attagirl. But and I've had coaches not do it the right way, and it sits in my brain, and I'm like, I'll never be like that. But give yourself a parameter. If you hear something that you don't like, I don't know, 5 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it may be. Don't go longer than a day with that broken record in your head. My friend Mike Chandler, MMA fighter Mike Chandler, talks about creating a mental positive highlight reel. I love that. is like create your own mental positive highlight reel and don't let any negative forces, outside forces, get in there. You may hear them, just don't let them sink in too far. Great question on that. Lori Legal Sawyer. Jersey's in the house. Lori Sawyer Fitness and Clean Cut Fit. Where did GYMR, Get Your Mind Right, originate? What was the trigger in your life that made Get Your Mind Right come to fruition? Yeah, that's a good question. Makes me think. Man, I don't even know. Since the early 2000s, I've been saying, get your mind right, get your mind right, get your mind right. And I started to say to my athletes, and my athletes were like, yo, TD, get your mind right. And it's kind of become like the running joke is like, you got your mind right. You got your mind right. You got to say it like that, by the way. You got to practice. Get your mind right. Get your mind right. You know, that's why we got all these bands on our wrists and hoodies and stuff. It's like, get your mind right. Get your mind right. Where did it originate? Just, I don't know. It just, in my mind, it came up and started saying, get your mind right, like a broken record over and over and again. I guess because my mind wasn't right at certain times. You know, Joel Osteen said, I was on his XM radio show a few years ago. He said, listen, if you don't have haters, you don't have doubters, you don't have naysayers, then you're not playing big enough. Ooh, you're not playing big enough. So for me, get your mind right is something that you're always rhetorically saying in your own mind to negate the negative voices that you will hear. Not that you might hear. Guys, I hear them too. I hear those voices all the time. You're not playing big enough. Hey, someone said this or that. Like, forget it. I'm not going to live in the minutia, the mundane, in the mud of that. Some people, the quagmire, people want to drag you down. You weren't designed to play in the quagmire, in an abyss of negativity and mud. Play at a higher level on that. Tasha Shadid, what's up, Tasha? Life Fit Personal Training Studio. Were you always good at writing and had the desire to write books? No, I wasn't actually. I definitely was not. And as a matter of fact, that is closely related, if I'm not mistaken, to Corey Barella. I'm going to answer this from Tustin, California, who says this. I'll answer this question in a moment. I'm digging the book, man. Every chapter is a mixture of experience, inspiration, and wisdom. I have to tell you, I cannot put the book down. The way you articulate your words is it's like the emotion is soaked into these pages. You do such an amazing job describing every component of your story. It's like being there with you. 3 books is an amazing achievement, and I'm sure you have a lot more in you before you're done. Yes, I do. I would love to be able to write a novel one day. About what? Who knows? I just know I've seen and been through so much, I'd love to put it down on paper. So having read your first 3 books, I was curious. What was the first significant thing you remember putting down on paper, or the first great story you ever told? I'd love to hear about the whole experience of when you first knew you wanted to be a writer. Much love, TD. Got to get back to reading the book now. Corey Barella, that's awesome. So in regards to you and Tasha, I've got 2 answers to that question. Number 1, and let me take y'all back a little bit. It goes back to the what grade was that? It was the 7th grade, 7th or 8th grade. Jan Pickerel. She was my teacher at Veterans Memorial Middle School. Shout out to all you VMMS veterans back there in Brick, New Jersey. But Miss Pickerel. I'll never forget this, that I don't remember the story I wrote, but I remember she used me as an example to the class. And I was just boasting with pride because she was talking about how the story that I wrote, I allowed the pen to flow. So I can't tell you the exact story that Miss Pick was alluding to, but I remember the feeling of saying, okay, let the pen flow. Now you asked the question, Tasha, about writing and where I learned that from. I've got to give my dad credit for this. So let me take you back to that same form of time, middle school. I was up for Pop Warner All-American. There were 50 Pop Warner football players who were up for All-American. You had to be an excellent student and be an excellent on the field. And you had to write 10 essays. And I remember, I did not want to write 10 essays. Kids, imagine writing 10 essays. Adults, 10 essays. I have no desire. But my dad had a legal notepad, and we had the questions that we had to write on. And it was down in the basement at 13 Edgewood Drive, Brick, New Jersey. I remember it like yesterday. And there's this ping pong table, and he had spread out these legal pads, 10 of them. And he wrote the question on the top of each one. He said, okay, start to let your pen flow. And I'll never forget the first story I did write for that, which I ended up getting Pop Warner All-American that year, one of 50 student athletes. Jim Kelly, by the way, Jim Kelly, the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, was the one who presented that with us, that award to us. But I never forget that story started with this: 4th down and long to go. The ball is snapped, and I want the ball in my hands. I roll to my right. I launch it into the blue air. And seconds later, I hear the roar of the crowd. Touchdown! The Brick Dragons win the game. That was the opening intro to my essay. And my dad was teaching me the art of creative writing, of not letting your pen be stuck. Get it all out on paper. Let it flow. Writing and editing are two separate things. I learned on essay number 1 of that 4th down and long to go, the art of writing creatively and letting the pen flow and letting it go. Just as if I was to write an email now, I may flow and go back and edit 2, 3, 4 times. I'm not sure why I'm getting choked up, but I guess it's because I'm thinking about my dad and how he still impacts me today. And I wish he could read this book about Get Your Mind Right. So to answer your question, it goes back to my early formative writing years on that. Great questions there. Micah Gar, as I was reading the book, I was just wondering, if you were to go back to the writing process and add a key number 11, because there's 10 keys, by the way, in the book, what would it be called? What would it be about? Why would you decide to add it to the book? Thanks for sharing the experience and thoughts about the book. I'm enjoying it immensely. That's a good question. You know what it would be? When life throws you a curveball. That's what would be number 11. When life throws you a curveball, because I didn't know that there'd be a major pandemic that would happen. And how many times in life do we get thrown curveballs? This is a major curveball for most people around the world. And maybe, and I know I talk about it in there, but it might need its own chapter. I'd also say maybe a chapter would be called When Your Mind Ain't Right. When Your Mind Ain't Right. And although the whole book is about when your mind ain't right or how to get your mind right, right? What if your mind ain't right? Like quick fixes that you can do. And again, there's a lot of those in the book, but I like that question. Gino Mingo asks, Pastor Gino, thank you very much, by the way, for all you're doing for our community at Fitness Quest 10 and leading prayer several times a week here for the Fitness Quest 10 community. While writing, did you ever encounter writer's block? And if so, what did you do to break through? Yeah, I did. Absolutely. Several times did I get that. Matter of fact, I actually would just stop. I would get up, I'd take a break, I'd get out, I would just stop writing, because if you get writer's block, I don't typically push through writer's block. I get up, I get outside, I might go for a walk, I might get another workout in, or I'll sometimes you know what, come back to live another day on that. I know, and I share this in the book, when my peak productivity times are. And for me, it's after my workouts in the morning. It's when I'm doing this podcast episode right now, is after my morning workout from my home office. It's like, that's when I do my best work, and I tend to flow best as well. So a great question, Gino Mingo. A few more on these Q&As here. Craig Valenci, Fitness Quest 10 own. Fantastic standout trainer, Craig Valenci. Considering what we're going through now, what part of the book speaks to you the most about getting through this crisis? Ooh, deep question from Craig Valenci here. Fitness Quest 10 shout out. Craig, what I would say is this. For those of you who may have already received the book, because several of you who have pre-ordered the book actually are getting the book in advance, or if you were on the launch team, you've already read it, or when you read it, keep this in mind. I think the part that speaks to me the most now, having written the book prior to COVID-19, obviously, would be chapters 9 and 10. Chapter 9 is tapping into the whispers, and it was the hardest chapter I've ever written out of any of my books, because I go deep into my own faith. And that's what I was talking about earlier, as far as it is not what I envisioned it. I did not intend going into this initially to make it going into my faith and how faith plays an important role into who I am and my energy and what I do. But tapping into your whispers, the last, 2.5, 3 months has been more important than ever before. And then number 10 is live a life worth telling a story about. What's your story? And through this crisis, through this pandemic, I believe there's going to be some really amazing stories that happen because of this. There's going to be major transitions, and I don't want to diminish the what has happened here and the number of lives that were lost in this pandemic. But hopefully, you and your family have been safe, all of you, and that you can use this time of adversity, challenge, and tribulation to one that allows you to go deeper into your own divine purpose and what it is. So great question, Craig, on that. Janelle Viteri from Seattle, Washington. And there's a little exclamation, go Seahawks. I'm loving these questions, by the way. Absolutely loving them. My first question is, she's got a couple questions here. I'll just go with this one. Third question is, if you could have anyone read your book, who would read it and why? Wow. If anyone, here's what comes to mind. Donald Trump. I need the Donald to read this book. Get your mind right. Politics aside, the reason I say that is because that guy is leading a lot of people. And I think all leaders right now are under tremendous stress and duress. I pray for our leaders in our global economy, in our around the world, not just Trump, but all of our leaders, all of the people who are making really important decisions, all the way down to the local levels. So thank you, and thank you to all the first responders as well. I'd also say The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, just because I love The Rock. I'd want Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, to read Get Your Mind Right. That's one of my intentions. The Rock and I are going to work out sometime. We do a little arm farm together on that stuff. So I'm going to get my friends over to Under Armour to gift The Rock the Get Your Mind Right book. And that would be good. So those would be my answers to that, Janelle. That's a fun one. When writing the book, Ian Rushberry. Ian, thank you for all your comments on this. When writing the book, who did you have in your mind's eye that would benefit the most? And which close client, colleague, coach, or mentee do you feel has been personally impacted the most by your Get Your Mind Right phrase? Ooh, Ian Rushberry. 2 questions. I'll answer them both. When writing the book, who do you have in your mind's eye? I'd say at first it was athletes, right? I talked about how my intention was I was going to really impact the mindset of athletes, not just pro athletes, but athletes, youth athletes, high school athletes. Having 2 of my 3 kids are high school athletes. My daughter is going into the 7th grade. So youth, high school, college athletes, and of course pro athletes as well, because pro athletes, while you watch them on TV, they have the same challenges that everyone else has as far as making sure they keep their mind right. But it really morphed into, at first it was athletes, but it morphed into, as I got deeper and deeper in the book, like I was sharing, I got deeper with my own stories personally. It really became a book more for like moms and dads and high performers and entrepreneurs and leaders who are struggling with the balance in life and how you do it all, right? It's a question I got, and I don't know if I'll get to it today because I've got a ton of them here. But this Q&A now, by the way, if you're liking this style Q&A, let me know, and I'll do more of these, because my hope is over the next 3 to 4 weeks with the Thursday episodes, I'll do more of the Q&A and just have a chit chat with you while you're out for your workout. But with that is just moms and dads, entrepreneurs, leaders, and just high performers as well. Which client, coach, mentee do you feel is personally impacted the most by your Get Your Mind Right phrase? I guess client, I would say Drew Brees. Right? That's my gut. And the reason I say that is, and by the way, Drew 18 years, that's the reason I say that is because I've been training him longer than I've trained any athlete in my life. 18 years is a long time. We're going to our 18th year. He epitomizes Get Your Mind Right. If you look at Drew and he's got his impact band on, he epitomizes Get Your Mind Right. He is someone who impacts a lot of people, millions of people on that. And I think, we talk about iron sharpens iron. When I'm hanging with Drew and we're training together or chatting on that, he epitomizes that. And I see the way he represents himself, his family, as a father, as a husband, as a philanthropist, doing great things around the globe. From a coach or mentee standpoint, again, I'm just going with my gut. I would say a gal named Janine Henson. Janine Henson. You probably don't know her unless you're in my mastermind group, but Janine Henson lost her son to suicide last year. And the reason I say that isn't because get your mind right. Well, the reason why I say Janine Henson is because what Janine Henson has done with her tragic loss of her son, who served admirably in the military, is she started a 401k in Daniel's honor called the Daniel Project. And I guess she's just used the principles that we all live by, right? That you live by if you've read the book, and that you strive to live by, right? I mean, none of us, including myself, aren't perfect. But when I think of a mentee or a coach, I look at them as colleagues. Is Janine Henson epitomized it? There's so many of them. And then just from an overall client standpoint, I can't say one name because there's a lot of people who I don't know. There's a lot of people that are listening to this podcast that I may not have met you, I may not know you, but then I'll get some random text or DM or message on Facebook about, hey, thanks, Todd, I'm a police officer, or I'm this or that, and I realize that, and that to me is what makes me tick. So thank you for your message, Ian. That's a deep question, really deep question. So thank you. I'm going to go with one more just for time's sake, and then I'll come back with it. This is Teresa Darby. Hey, TD, Teresa Darby. TD also, by the way, from Columbus. Is that Columbus, Mississippi, USA, baby? Or is that Missouri? The book immediately grabbed me because on June 4th, I'll have a total knee replacement, right knee also. I had a right knee partial knee replacement in 2018. I've been passionate about working out for about 15 years now, and I'm pretty scared about losing a lot physically. I'm 68 years old and have MS and scared of becoming sedentary. But what really spoke to me was the part about the tremendous gift of time out from every day. I'm already journaling, but we'll do more based on your recommendation. My fear is because God's plan for me, more than likely, is not what I want it to be. Ooh. I started a very small personal training business this year, and I sincerely love helping others with positivity and confidence. They're amazed at what they can do if they believe in work. So even with the obstacles coming up, I have to get my mind right. Thank you for this book. I am cray. I love it. Man, Teresa, I love this. And what I want to do here is just acknowledge you because what Teresa is saying or sharing is that she's scared. She's fearful. She's got this knee replacement. Let me not skip over this. She said she's 68 years young and she started a small personal training business this year. Teresa, shout out to you. Congratulations for your 68 and you started a business. That just proves to me and everyone listening today that it doesn't matter how old you are. If you have a driving purpose, you could do whatever you want to do. And the fact that you're helping people, you're impacting people, that is so awesome, and I commend you for that. Now, on June 4th, listen up. This is for all you fire-breathing dragons, all you mind-right maniacs out there, is you attack June 4th. This is your day that your life is going to change again for the better, because it will. My knee replacement, when I got that, I am so grateful for Dr. Jenkowitz and the entire team that I worked with, my physical therapist, because my right knee now is better than my other knee. I wish my other knee felt as good as my new knee, because the modern medicine is just absolutely incredible. And on June 4th, Teresa, I want you to just have such grace and such peace going into that surgery, knowing that the best is yet to come. You attack that physical therapy. You put yourself around a team of fire-breathing dragons in rehab and in mindset. You listen to the podcast. You just consume as many podcast episodes as you possibly can. And I promise you, as you go into the next decade of your life, you're going to impact more and more people. And I want to hear from you, Teresa Darby. I want to know what you're up to, because to me, you are tremendously inspiring. And yes, the fear is God's plan for me is different than I want it to be. And that's called tapping into your whispers. My friends, what if what God is whispering to you is different than what you're whispering to yourself? Ooh, that's deep, that's deep, that's deep now. But that's where courage, that's where faith comes into play. And if you keep hearing those same whispers over and over and over and over again, then you've got to tap into that, because ultimately that's your potential. Those are the gifts inside of you that each of you have. And as I end today's episode, Teresa, I just say thank you for that question, that comment, and that voice of encouragement on June 4th. I'll say a prayer for you. I'll put you on the prayer list, and keep leading and keep inspiring so many people. That fires me up. So, folks, there you have it. A great episode. It's a Q&A episode. I don't even know how many questions we got through, but I've got pages and pages more, and I'll come back next week with some Q&A. But I want to see if you enjoyed that one. I want to see your comments. I want to see you sharing and posting. And don't forget, if you have not reviewed the podcast, they really help us with Get Your Mind Right book coming out next week, and the podcast is heating up more and more as summer approaches. Thank goodness summer is here. The heat is here. It's only going to heat up more and more. So thank you for all you do. If you have not gotten the book yet, if you have not bought the book, please get the book. If you want to get it for your teammates, your colleagues, your family members, you want to help them get their mind right. I should have said earlier on in that Q&A, when someone says, what if you're surrounding yourself with people who don't have their mind right? Just gift them the book. That'll be a real good tool for them. All you got to do is say, hey, I got a special gift. My friend Todd says you got to get your mind right. I don't say that, but Todd says it. And they'll laugh and have a little bit of fun with you as well. But hey, keep smiling, keep shining out there. Thank you for what you do. Again, toddurkin.com/getyourmindright is the where you can go and get the book. toddurkin.com/getyourmindright. But continue to lead, continue to get after it, continue to share the grace, the strength, and all that you have. Remember those 10 words. Get after it with those 10 words: hope, belief, conviction, grit, toughness, vision, discipline, determination, positivity, faith, and gratitude, my friends. Have an incredible day. Go out there and make the world a better place. Get your mind